Okay, welcome to the next episode. So, like I said, we're going to touch on this whole thing about speech. Something that grows out of the little God's theology is this idea that we can speak, and similar to God, who spoke, and everything that now exists came out of, was formed by the power of his words, Genesis 1, and affirmed again in Hebrews 11. So we see that that's a reality. God did that. God does that. But then the little God's theology, where it can go is we have a similar kind of power, and it can develop a very developed idea about speech and how that works. And again, there's some nuances in it that I think we need to be aware of. So some of this teaching will be simply say it and believe it and it's done. Say it and the power of positive confession and things like this. Now, there can be no doubt that speech is powerful. There can be no doubt that what I say to you and what you say to me has an impact. There's something, the proverb says that, in the tongue is the power of life and death. I do think there are these echoes that we see, in the sense that we are made in God's image. There's real power in speech, extraordinary power in speech. And I think, none of us can deny that extraordinary ideas and philosophies and dreams have almost been articulated at times in history through speech in such a way that it's almost like entities itself are kind of created in the minds and the hearts of people. The power of storytelling, and what words can do in terms of what they form inside of you, and the power of preaching. God has deliberately chosen the foolishness of preaching, to see people saved. Why? Because there's something going on there in speech. It's one of the things that marks us out from the rest of creation. There's something powerful in it. I can see the people that go to crazy land with it. I can see how they get there. But I'm going to try and help us not go to crazy land. Here's how it can go crazy. It can go crazy to the point whereby you can't be honest anymore. So, for example, someone says how you are, you have to say I'm blessed and highly favoured. Now, on one level, if you're a Christian, that is honest. But if you're having a real bad year, tragedy and calamity, and someone asks how you're doing, you say I'm blessed and highly favoured. You go, yeah, okay, you are still. But how else are you doing? There's a place for being honest and saying, "Oh, struggling, really, really tough. I'm at my wit's end." That's okay. The Bible writers do that. Jesus himself said to his disciples, "My soul is grieved to the point of death. Stay with me, watch with me, pray with me." It's not very positive, Jesus. The Apostle Paul in 2 Corinthians chapter 1 says we were burdened. We were so burdened we gave up on life. We felt we had the sentence of death in us. We gave up on life. You think, wow, that's honest. That's really, really honest. You think, no, be positive. Or if you say that, it's going to get worse. And so we've got to just get real about this and say the last thing you want to do is go around bewailing, moaning, speaking negatively about everything. Please don't hear that either. There's something to strike here where we've got to be able to stand on what God says about us. And to confess means to agree. It means to agree with what God says. That's a powerful thing. That's a really powerful thing. And it's a bit like, the psalmist, you find him talking to his own soul at times. Why are you downcast within me? Put your hope in God. Trust in him. And there's this thing where we speak to ourselves, we rally ourselves and we say, "No, come on, I'm not going to become like a wet balloon," or whatever the saying is. "I'm not going to become a damp squib. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stand on the truth of God, and I'm going to confess it because I love it." That's a good thing. That's good for your soul. That's powerful. But also, the Bible, Lamentations, the Psalms, Job, full of people saying, "God, how long? Oh God, how long?" Or, "Where have you gone, Lord? Why? It's not like it used to be." There's this outpouring of the heart. There isn't unbelief. It's not unbelief. It's part of the journey of faith. These seasons we go through, we feel God's left us. These seasons we go through, we don't get it. Why? Lord, I've tried to live for you. Why has that happened to me? Just speaking honestly. Speaking, the idea of whether our words have creative power or not is an important one to think about. Paul says in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, I believed, therefore I spoke. I believed, therefore I spoke. So what he's saying is that something about the spirit of having that spirit of faith, that kind of, it manifests in speech. I believe in Jesus, so I talk about him. There's something, what goes out the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. So I believed, therefore I spoke. I proclaim the gospel because I believe it. There is something there that to say that speech is one of the outworkings of genuine faith. And speech can help you as your faith is struggling, to speak biblical truth over yourself and to speak the gospel. God will use that as an instrument to bring new life. So we see these things are here. But this idea that somehow if I just say certain things or say the right things, regardless of the will of God, regardless of what God's doing in this situation, if I just say these things and say them in the morning and in the noon and in the night and, make these confessions that it will somehow create a reality, I think you've gone somewhere else. I think at that point you've gone somewhere you don't want to be. I think you've gone to crazy land. I think it's the negative element of this little gods thing. You're kind of say, if I just kind of enforce it enough, and you kind of create this kind of weird sort of sovereignty, we'll bring it about. That's not the tone. That's not the tone of the New Testament. And sometimes the best way of discerning theological truth is you become very, very familiar with the Bible, very familiar. So it's not just I know this verse and that verse, I know. No, you become really familiar with it and you go, it just doesn't sound like the Bible. It doesn't sound like the tone, it's not how the writers spoke. They didn't. I can see, you can see, you can often see, I can see where you started thinking that, but I can also see where you've departed. It's not it becomes chanting. It becomes that thing where Jesus says, don't think you'll be heard for your many words, or your Father knows what you need before you ask. It's a relationship. It's a relationship. Imagine if, I just kind of just wrote sayings with my wife. Just wrote sayings to try to get the marriage to move on in certain areas where I wanted it to, or with my kids, or with the church. Just wrote, as I'll say it enough, it will happen. No, there's an interaction, there's a relationship, there's something that goes on which involves speech, but it's a relational thing. Surely that's what's going on with God. He's got a will, a plan, a purpose, which involves us believing his word, believing his promises, standing on them. Absolutely. Standing firm, saying what we believe to be true. Yeah, that's all part of it, but it's not, we don't generate our own economy or spirituality or sovereign will or ideal life by just saying those things and say, no, they're going to have that Genesis 1 kind of power. They're not. That's not. You're trying to be like God. You're committing the sin of Genesis 3. You're trying to be like God. No. Our expressing the likeness of God is contingent upon our relationship with God and our submission to him, his lordship, his will, his purpose, his plan. That's how it works. So hopefully that will help to show you why fundamentally I agree that it's not the case that if we just say certain words, things will happen. Because fundamentally I don't agree with the little gods thing. But hopefully also you'll be able to see some of the things, some of the biblical truths that the people that do believe this stuff, how they got there. Because there are some things there to hold on to, some things to treasure, some things to embrace, and some things to grow in, but within the right kind of surroundings biblically. Okay, hope that helps. God bless.